Hi, everyone. Carmen Disco here with the Launch Network. We got another awesome Get Ready for Retail show with the King of Swing, the man of the hour, the retail bandit, Mr. Jim DeBetto. What's up, Jim?
The retail bandit.
I just made that up. Just
Did you
making
script
stuff
that
up.
one? Yeah,
It's too early.
Come up with something new. That was a good one. I like that.
Yeah.
The retail bandit. I don't know if that's
he steals the deals.
That's right. He's the retail bandit.
You can wear
like
change we're wearing masks. We're wearing
You're gonna change the background? Yeah, I need either an eye patch or like a Zorro mask or something.
Yeah, and you steal the deals.
That's right. We're gonna leave that up. I'm gonna leave the artwork up to you and all the costume design. You
Yeah.
work on that.
Yeah, I'm good at that stuff. Yeah.
I know you are.
What's happening, man? How's it going?
You know, yesterday we had some wicked thunderstorms here. I don't know if you heard about it.
On the news.
I was actually, you know, Lisa Lloyd, right?
Yeah.
I was on the phone with her. We were catching up, and it was like thundering and lightning. And I'm sitting in have this leather, just like recliner type chair, and it's right by the window. And I heard this really loud thunder, and then a lightning strike. I swear, if it didn't hit my house, it hit either a tree or the next door neighbor's house. It was so loud. I came off my chair probably a foot. And I was like, holy, and Lisa was like, what the hell was that? It was so loud. It actually,
wow.
it scared me. You know what I mean? I've heard, you've heard thunder and lightning, but that was by far the loudest thing I've heard. And then my internet just died. Everything went off. And I still don't have internet. So I don't even know how, I'm just using the air, with the Wi-Fi, but I have no Wi-Fi here at all, nothing. And I like to work with the TV on in the background. I have nothing going on. So it was wild. And they were supposed to have some more of them today.
Wow.
So it was nuts. But yeah, so, in the midst of that, and especially yesterday was really busy. I've been the last week, I've gotten so many more questions from inventors. I know we just did a few shows on that, but I've gotten so many questions and a lot of the same ones. So I figured, hey, you know what? We have guests coming on for the next number of podcasts. And so it's good to get these things in there while we can. So I want to try to rip through some stuff and answer some questions for people. And because I know these are questions that a lot of inventors ask, and I see them on social media, and I figured, hey, let's go over them here, and that should benefit everybody.
Yeah. Cool, man. That's awesome. Yeah. I got some good feedback on these questions that we've been fielding.
Yeah, and I'm getting just more and more, and I continue to get people saying they're listening in, they're really getting a lot from the podcast. So we know what we're doing is really helpful. So that's a good thing. But
yeah, that's awesome, man.
All right, so let me jump in. I got we'll never get through them all, but I'll just try to. Nice cup. What is that? Orange.
Yeah, man.
Look at that thing. All right,
we made these cups. We made these cups. Got a shot glass on the bottom.
Oh, really? Look at that. It looks like a candle from there, and then when you hold it like that.
Oh, yeah.
And when you flip it over.
It could be a candle, shot glass and regular glass.
Look at that. All right. Cool deal. All right. First question I got amongst many was, do I need product liability insurance to sell my product? I've seen that one so much lately. I've seen it on social media. I've gotten text, emails, everything. And the short answer is yes, you do. If you're going to sell your product to any major retailer, they will require it. They will not set you up as a vendor or issue a purchase order until you secure product liability insurance. And people say, well, what is that?
Yeah.
And basically, it's insurance that should somebody get hurt by using your product, something happens to them while using your product, anything that goes wrong where somebody could sue somebody, you need to protect yourself. It's no different than having, I guess, car insurance, right? You get in an accident, you've got liability, it pays out the other side. So if it's your fault, you have insurance to cover something, right? You're speeding a little and you get in an accident, that's your fault. Or you rear end somebody, it's your fault. So someone's got to pay, you're going to pay, but you have insurance for that, right? So the insurance covers it. With product liability, it's the same thing. And the retailer doesn't want to take on the lawsuit themselves, right? They put it on you. Hey, Carmine, that's your product. like that, because they'll, they tend to go after the retailer, right? And the retailer's going to say, nope, go after Carmine, his thing. Even if you like slip and fall in the aisle in which your product was in, you could get sued. I mean, you get people sued for everything. I mean, they really do. So you have to protect yourself, and the retailers know that. So they require it, which then leads to how much insurance. And, every retailer has different liability amounts. And I'm not an insurance person, and I don't want to sound like an insurance salesperson here by any means, but just to give people a couple of quick things, there's two ways to break it down. There's per occurrence limits, and then there's general aggregate limits. So like someone like Target or Walmart, they may say, well, you need a $1 million general aggregate policy, and then a 5 million or an 8 million or a 10 million per occurrence coverage. And so you then go to your insurance agent and you secure that particular coverage for that retailer. You add them as an additional insured, and you send that certificate over to the retailer, and you're good to go. And how much does it cost? It could cost hundreds. It could cost thousands and thousands. It just depends on the risk level of your product.
Yeah.
So, as an insurance primer for everybody.
Yeah. I mean, and usually, and don't hold me to it, depending on your product, right, Jim? I mean, it could be very minimal depending on your product. If there's,
I mean, look, you have that cup there. Now, if it's a shot glass, that turns a whole nother page, because people are drinking alcohol out of that thing. But if that was just a plastic cup, it's a on the low scale of liability. Yep. But if you have something with moving parts, small pieces, things, ingestibles, things like food, things people eat, anything that's a risk, it could be, I don't know, it could be like a toy or something, or a game or something you play where you could get hurt while doing it, like sporting goods, things for pools, cooking things, you can get burned. I don't know. Anything where there's more risk, of course, the insurance is going to cost more.
Yeah.
But it's something that inventors don't need initially. They always say, well, do I need to get it right now? I'm like, until you get a retailer that's actually interested and wants to move forward and then ask you for it, and you can get that insurance quickly. Generally, I mean, you just have to make sure that you've at least made contact with, and there are companies like Sadler Insurance and other places that offer it. That it's not something like your local State Farm agent's going to do, right? But your agent might say, hey, this is a company that brokers out that kind of insurance. So it's not stuff you just get around the corner, but something you should at least get quotes for and get ready for, and not have to do that at least at the last second, because once you have all those quotes, it's easy to sort of push the button and get the coverage you need.
Yep. I totally agree. Do not, if you guys are listening out there, do not go out and get your product liability insurance until you have to.
Right. Until you're forced to do it. Because then you're paying for coverage that you're not even utilizing. It'd be like, I'm going to get auto insurance, car insurance, and I'm just going to park my car for 3 months and not even touch it. I mean, what's the point, right? So think of it that way. Just it's something that's needed. And someone had brought up a point on social media that even if you don't sell to retailers, you still want product liability insurance. So even if you're selling on your own website, for example, you still want product liability insurance, because at the end of the day, there is a consumer who is buying the product, right? So you've got to be covered anyway.
Yep, agree.
There you go.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Yeah,
insurance. Exciting. Just another expense, but hey, it's got to be done.
100%.
Yeah. All right. So that was a biggie. Another one that I get constantly is, are videos important when pitching to retailers or for licensing? And without even exception, it's a huge yes. Everyone wants to watch videos. I mean, look, we do a podcast. It's a video. YouTube is huge. TikTok. I mean, everything, everywhere, people want to consume videos, and they don't want long videos. They want quick, fast, entertaining, funny, informational. You've got to be quick on it. And when you're presenting a product to anybody, whether it's to a retailer or to a potential licensee, if you want to license your product, make a short video, 30 seconds, 45 seconds. I wouldn't make it any longer than that. Doing a demo of your product, and you do not need professional video production, although if you can do it, right? I mean, it might come out better if somebody else does it. But if you have a phone, and everyone seems to, the cameras are great on these phones. So why not just do it yourself? It's enough. Just, make sure the lighting's decent, be clear. A lot of people make the mistake of doing videos and they're really far away, like this far away, and they're trying to show the product. Like, come up, show the product like this. Here's how it works. Hey, everyone, it's the widget. Let me show you how it works. Blah, 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 blah. Hey, look, it does this, it does that. It's the only one in the world that works like this. Done. Just get through it. Nobody cares about the story, why. If you're sending this to a buyer, they just want to know what it is, what it's called, how it works, why it's better or equally equivalent to something else that they have, but maybe it's a better price. Whatever the benefits and features are, you just do that in the video and get it done. And now, today, you can embed a video on a sell sheet, which is great. I do that for a lot of people. So instead of having like a separate link in an email, you could actually embed it on the actual sell sheet that you email to a buyer. It's like a click on it and play. And I'd rather watch a quick video. Like when people email me, they say, hey, Jim, I got a great product. Can you check it out? And they send me a YouTube link and it's like a minute. That's the best. Because I could, in 1 minute, can see what it's about. And then at least I can make a decision saying, hey, this looks cool. I want to know more, or, not for me. As long as the video is coherent, you can see what's going on. That's a huge thing to do.
Wow. Yeah, no doubt about it. You don't want to be too long, even if you have to make multiple. But yeah, 30 seconds to a minute is pretty much where I would draw the line.
There's very few situations where you need to go more than a minute. Everything I see can be explained in a minute or less. You just have to get to it. Even if you have to practice a handful of times on how to get through that in a minute. A minute seems short, but it's really long when you're talking about a product. But what happens is a lot of inventors get on and they say, hey, it's Jim. How's it going? Back in 1997, I came up with this idea and I was sitting at home. Like, nobody wants to hear that. I know that we want to hear the story, but not when you're pitching it to sell it. Just get right to it. Hey, my name is Jim. I've got this great product. It's called XYZ. Let me show you how it works. Blah, 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 blah. It does this. Look at it, how it turns this way. Look, it's got a light. It does. And hey, and it's the only thing of its kind. And look, there's this other product out there, but mine does it faster, better. It costs less money. It's unique, blah, blah, blah. And you're done.
Yep.
You just got to resist the temptation to drone on and say things over and over and talk about the story. Just get to it. If somebody wants to know the story, you can just tell them do another video and tell them the story. But retailers don't have the time for that. I'm telling you right now, if you sent me like a 6 or 5 or 8, 9 minute video, I'm probably not going to watch it initially if you're just pitching me cold. Are you going to watch something that long?
Yeah, no doubt. Well, here's a good part about it too. And I've learned this the hard way is that I'm not very good at doing videos. So I have somebody do it. Right. So if you are the inventor, that doesn't mean you have to do the video. You might be too emotionally attached to it. You might, as you're doing the video, make it too long because you're explaining every little feature and benefit and all those things. So you may want to bring somebody in that can do the video for you and just talk about the benefits, because the benefits are the most important on the video.
There's an industry out there, a little cottage industry, that people that do what's called explainer videos. And it's cheap. You might only pay a couple $100 or something, but they will do that for you. And you're right. If you're not the type, if you just some people feel uncomfortable getting on camera, they feel like they can't articulate well, who knows? If that's the case, then yes, then hire somebody. It's worth it. If you pay a few $100 or so to have somebody do that, it's worth it, because that video can be used over and over and over again, wherever you want. However, you can put it on social media, you could send it to buyers, you could send it to companies, whatever. There's no better way to show a product than to do a video. It doesn't mean that you don't just reach out to a buyer and say, hey, check this out. You do want to still have a sales sheet. You want to have the elevator pitch, the 2 or 3 sentences explaining what the product is, bullet points with the benefits and features. We've talked about sell sheets many times. You still want to do all that, but include the video, because somebody could scan that, get a quick read on like, hey, this is what the product is. And then they watch the video and they're like, oh, got it, totally understand. That's the way to do it. That's the way I would do it. That's the way I tell everybody else to do it.
Yeah, no doubt, man. And that's why I say there's nothing wrong and there's nothing demeaning if you have somebody do your video for you.
No,
I mean,
not at all.
that's why they're called actors.
Yeah. All right. Exactly. And there are people that just really, I mean, you look at, you know, and I used to go on HSN and you get on there and they have all these cameras are on you and you have an earpiece and they're talking to you. It's intimidating. I mean, obviously that's a bigger thing, but you'd be surprised how many people are intimidated by turning the camera on themselves and trying to record something.
Yeah.
It's not as easy as some people might think, but it's certainly not difficult. You just have to be comfortable doing it. And so again, but it's not about how great you look or how polished it is. I think if you could just get on there and just talk for a few seconds about what it is, nobody's judging you that way. People just want to know what the product is. Like when I'm watching these videos, I'm not sitting there going, oh, well, look at the color of their shirt or, oh, look at their hair. I mean, I don't care, right? I'm just going, what's the product? Do I get it? Done. And to me, that's effective. If I can fully understand what it is, why it's good, why it's better, why I should have it, I don't care what else is going on in that video.
No doubt. 1,000,000%. Yeah. Videos are, like you said, best way to get your product in front of the right people. Look at it quickly. It could also be the worst way if you drone on and on and on. So think about it and show it to other people before you send it to somebody like Jim.
Yeah. Well, I mean, really just anybody just say, hey, do you understand what this is? Or is this clear? And yeah, people have different opinions of what clarity is with stuff like that. But again, just keep it short. You can do it yourself. It's a great way to connect with people initially to show them what you've got.
Yeah.
So,
Geez.
all right. Yeah, that one comes up all the time. All right. I know we have time for a couple more, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah.
All right. So I get this a lot in different forms. And Carmen, I know you get this for sure. People ask, do I need a prototype to either sell my product or to license it to a company? Like, do I need a physical prototype? And the answer is maybe, as far as I'm concerned. Now, it depends on what you're doing, right? We know there's two paths, going to retail or licensing. Those are the two paths that inventors take when they have a product idea. Now, if you're licensing, this is one of those, it depends. Now, it never hurts to have a functional working prototype. It could never be a negative, right? If you have the means financially, and it doesn't mean prototypes all have to be expensive, but if you can do it and you could take that idea from your head and turn it into a physical product and show that to people to sell it, how can that ever be a bad thing? But can you sell a product without having a product? Yes, you can. And that's what sell sheets are for. We talk about sell sheets probably more than anything in the world here. And you see this all the time. And there are people in our business that are huge proponents of just using a sell sheet because it's a cheap and easy way to try to initially sell a product or to get it in front of a company to license it. And then there are people in another camp who believe that it's really best to have a prototype because it shows that the product is viable and it shows that how it actually works or looks or the colors or the size. And all those answers are right. But a lot of inventors just don't have the money. And so if you don't have the cash, and often people license because they don't have the money to manufacture and sell on their own, or they have a job and they don't want to be in business. They just have ideas and they're like, hey, I got an idea. I want to try to license it. And they don't want to spend the money. If you don't want to spend the money, you can just do a sell sheet. Or, and Carmen, I'm going to let you speak on this in a minute. There's virtual prototypes. There's animation. There are different ways to show a product off today that didn't exist years ago without physically making it. There's just lots of different ways. So this is your area of expertise. So are you able to share? Actually, I'm not asking, I'm telling you. You need to share with people a couple of the ways and alternatives to actually having a physical prototype made.
Yeah. You talked a lot about that, so that's good. So the first thing I do when I talk to a new client or an inventor is that I ask, which direction they want to go, whether it be licensing or down the road manufacturing and in some point selling their product. So and it could be a hybrid. A lot of clients, when they first come into the office or I talk to them on the phone, they're not sure which way they need to go because they don't have all that pricing, they don't have all the information. So you have to work through it. So the trick would be is to go as slowly as possible and decide at each step. If you go towards that licensing route, you don't need to do a lot of the things that you may need to if you go towards a manufacturing route. So yes, it's always great to have a working prototype, but if you have this cool, crazy invention for the next Mars lander, I would say no, don't make a prototype because it's going to cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. But if you can get something, even if it's a works like prototype or a looks like prototype, if you need to prove a theory, you need to prove that this works, it's never been done before, then you may have to do some type of prototype. But if it's something where you're putting two products together to make something work better, like a Reese's peanut butter cup, you may not have to make a prototype. You might be able to do an animation. You may be able to do something. So it's really at each step, you should really find someone who knows what they're talking about, because you could save a lot of money. But the trick is you can move a lot faster if you do things in the right sequence, in the right way. So you're talking to somebody like Jim. Hey, Jim, I got this really cool idea. Do I need a prototype? And Jim goes, oh no, they'll get that. Let's do a quick animation. Let's do a quick drawing. And now you're done. So there's a lot of ways to do that, Jim. What I love about it is you could save a lot of money, but you could save time too.
Yeah. And I always tell inventors as well that if you're savvy enough and smart enough about it, and you're trying to get a licensing deal and you approach a company and you don't have a prototype, or say you can't afford to make a prototype, and whether it's through animation or like a physical prototype, you could probably convince the company that's interested in your idea to pay to have that done. And it's all about leverage. If they really love the idea and they really think they can make money with it, obviously it's much easier to ask them that. But without tipping your hand, you could just say, hey, listen, I've got this concept. I haven't prototyped it yet. Obviously, you're very interested. You may have a great team in place to do all that. Let them pay for it, right?
Yeah.
Not wrong with that. As long as you can retain the rights to the product, then you're good to go. If you just let them do it and then it's theirs, then, well, you've given away everything. So,
yeah. And real quick, I wanted to add to that, Jim, you're right. So if you're going to get to anyone to do anything for you, inventors out there, you're going to get a CAD file done. You're going to get a prototype made. You're going to get some kind of design work done, whatever it is, get what's called a work for hire agreement signed. Just like with a professional photographer that shoots pictures at your wedding, when he's done with those pictures and you took all those thousands of pictures, those pictures belong to that photographer, and you obviously pay for them. So the same thing goes for any service that is provided for you. Not something like what Jim does, not something like what I do, but a design work, CAD work, prototyping, things in that sense. You should get a work for hire document. I include a work for hire document in any work I do, but it's very important to get that.
So you want the inventor to make sure that they retain the rights.
You have to retain a right
to what they do. It's kind of like when I built my website over a few years ago, I had to make sure that I said to the web designer, I need in writing to know that, yes, you designed this whole thing, but that it's mine. And you sort of go away legally, you still have access, or you can have access. But actually, my web designer was really good. She actually said, hey, when we're all done here, go in, change your password, do all those, I'm out. But if you need me, you'd have to provide me with that information to get in. So I agree with you. Yeah, you want to retain ownership. That's the thing that people have to be careful about. So, but yeah, those are great points, Carmine. It's not just like 20 years ago or whatever. All you could do is do a physical prototype, and it could take weeks, it could take months. And meanwhile, if you have somebody that's interested, they may not want to wait around. So now with all these other options, and I know you handle all those things, you could do those things in a couple of weeks versus a couple of months in many cases. So that's a huge advantage in a world that demands speed and quickness and getting things to people seemingly overnight. That's everybody has like that kind of expectation today, right? It's a hurry up and let's get it done world, and there's no excuse. And so, yeah, that's, and you and I are working on a number of things like that, where we have inventors that we're working with that are going through like the animation phases and things like that. And you actually see the product, and it's cool to see it go from the idea that the inventor has, which is like a whole string of writing, to this living thing that you watch on your screen. It's really cool. And then of course you go in and it's never right the first time, because you're just getting it out initially, and then you go back and say, hey, let's change this, let's move that, and you can do it, and you just update it, and then eventually, days or whatever later, you've got this whole thing, and it's exactly what everybody wanted, and that's very powerful when approaching a company, to show them that. And yet you didn't have to pay a ton of money, and you didn't have to wait all this time to get something physical made, which also, if it's made the first time, is probably not going to be right. And then you have to wait even more time to get a physical prototype updated. It's like a mess, you know? So
yeah, that's a good point, Jim.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's huge.
that's why we talk about saving money and time. Hey, Jim and I love making money. We want inventors to make money, but we also want to spend it in the right place at the right time.
You want right. We want to, I mean, if the inventor makes money, we're going to make money.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
and that, you know, we charge for the things we do, of course, but still we want to make sure that we minimize cost and time and speed to market. We always say that's king. So getting there in the fastest, most efficient and cost-effective way is the goal for everybody involved. But
no doubt.
I know we have time for one more.
Yeah, I think so.
All right, good.
Like, you know, the explanation of matter in physics or something.
We could do this. We could do a show all year long on questions. It's crazy. But these are the ones that over the last week, I've gotten either more than once, or I've seen on social media in all these groups that we hang out in. And I'm like, you know, I'm just going to talk about them here. All right. Okay. Kickstarter. Okay. Raising money. This is a huge one. It keeps coming up. We've talked about this on other podcasts. You know, the old world of finding an angel investor to give you money for your invention. It's not gone, but it's not as prevalent, and it's certainly not as easy to obtain money from an angel. So instead, here comes Kickstarter, the biggest crowdfunding website in the world, where you can go up there, set up a campaign. This is where the video comes in handy, right? You put a video up, here's my product. And that is where you probably will do a different video, because you do want to tell a little bit of a story. And hey, this is Jim, and this is why I'm doing this. And this is what I need the money for. And check out my idea. That's a little bit different. But you fill out basically some forms. You answer some questions. You put in your product information. And then, of course, you have to give rewards. And the rewards are for when people donate money to you, that when they do, you give them something back. And oftentimes it's samples of the product, but it could be, you can give away anything you want. But you fill out all this information, and then you wait for Kickstarter to approve the campaign. And then, you know, you put in a dollar amount. It could be 10 grand, it could be 50 grand, it could be $1 million, it could be whatever you want, whatever it is you want to raise. And then you have a certain amount of time to raise that money. And if you don't raise the money, you don't get funded. Now, there are sites like Indiegogo and others that will allow you to sort of keep whatever it is that you raised, even if you didn't hit that initial number. So if you were raising 50 or trying to raise 50 and you only raised 20, you could still utilize the 20,000. And how it gets triggered, people say, well, how does it work on the donation side? People are literally donating money. There's nobody's lending money to you. They're not taking an equity stake in your business. It could be, you could ask for anywhere from $20 or whatever to thousands of dollars, and you give them bigger rewards as they donate more. But basically, that person who's donating is going to put their credit card in. And if the campaign reaches its goal, it trips the charging of your card. So Carmen, if I have a campaign and I start it May 1st and it expires June 1st, and I hit my number on June 1st or thereabouts, your card's going to get charged. Let's say you donate $100. And then you basically take that money and you do what it is that you said you're going to do with it. So a lot of people go on there and they need money for the manufacturing part, right? They need, that's the biggest expense initially, is to make it. So they say, oh, I need to raise 50 grand because I need to buy, to get a mold, and I need to make a minimum of 1,000 pieces, and it's going to cost me all this money. Then you get started. That's how Kickstarter works. But here's the thing. And this is where everybody goes wrong, because we know that a vast majority of campaigns do not get funded. And it's not because the idea isn't good or because there isn't merit behind the campaign itself. Like, hey, if you need money for manufacturing, I get that. It's a lot of money. Where people go wrong is they don't market the campaign correctly. So they put the campaign on Kickstarter, and then what they do is they go on Facebook once a day and they go, hey, check out my campaign. And that's all they do. Mm. And they do it on their own personal page, and some of their friends see it, or family, and they'll get a few bucks, right? I mean, if it's like my family, I'll donate a few dollars to it. but then it just dies. And I don't know the stats lately, but I have read that like the first 3 to 5 days of a campaign are critical, like where you got to raise like a bulk of the money. And generally speaking, if you don't hit a certain percentage during those first few days, those campaigns almost never get funded. And so the trick is you have to, this is again, another one of these things that's kind of like, chicken and an egg thing. You need money to do these things for your invention because you don't have the money. But typically you have to spend a little money to market the campaign correctly so you can raise the money. Yeah. And there are people in this business that, of course, that charge to either execute a marketing plan. It could be running paid ads on social media so more people see it. It could be reaching out to the press so they can put it out there. It could be reaching out to bloggers, people who are of influence or influencers, and they just have different methods to reach a lot more people with your campaign versus what you might have. I know a few people, they could charge a couple grand on up, and then they also will want a small percentage of what you get funded. So if you raise 50 grand, they may say, I want 5%, plus it's, 3 grand to run the campaign. Now to me, that's worth it. If you get all the other money you need, all I say is instead of asking for 50, you might probably want to ask for 60 so you can cover the other costs. So you net out the 50 that you actually need, right? So you have to think about those things. But this is the way people are raising money. And I've worked with directly a number of inventors who initially said, I don't have the money to do this, did a Kickstarter campaign and came back and were able to work with me because they raised money that way. But more people don't raise it than do raise it. And I do believe it's simply because of their lack of their ability to market the campaign.
Yeah, well, that is it, Jim. Well, one, the product has to be, good. 2, you got to build trust with, like you said, Jim, the videos, multiple videos. The people have to believe that you are ready to make this product and it will get delivered. You got to build that trust up. But the biggest thing that you said, Jim, is you got to drive traffic to the campaign. Roy Morjan is on the United Inventors Association board, and he's one of the top funding experts for places like Indiegogo, Kickstarter, things in that sense.
Really?
He tells me that they prepare for 6 to 8 months to run a Kickstarter campaign.
Really?
Yeah. Obviously they're trying to run millions. They have some of the top products that have ever been on Kickstarter. But the trick is as you said, Jim, you can't just build it and they will come. There's too many products on Kickstarter to think your product will stand out. It's just like Amazon. We had Carlos Alvarez on, remember, for our 3-parter on how to deal with Amazon. It's the same way. You can't just put a product on Amazon and hope for the best. That's right. That's correct.
It's a world where, unfortunately, in many instances, you have to pay to get exposed, and that's just the way it is. And visibility is the biggest thing in this business. And your product doesn't always have to be the best, but it can sell the best if it's seen. There are a lot of people that come to me and say, well, I've got this great product and it's awesome. And it is, but I'm like, it's useless from a sales perspective if nobody ever actually sees the thing. So, and this is why I always push for people to sell to major retailers, because if you get your product into one major chain, the millions of people will see it, whether it's in the store or on their website or both. There's no, and that's free exposure, right? That's not the only free exposure you're going to get, but everything else you have to pay for. And and there are people who will argue, no, I did it and I didn't spend any money, whatever. That's like 1 out of every 5,000 people that I've ever talked to. Most of the time you get what you put into it. And that means if you really want to ensure the best shot at getting your product funded on a crowdfunding site like Kickstarter, if I was doing this myself today, I would absolutely hire somebody to do it that has like you said, has a great reputation, that does it all the time. They know how to do it. They know they have the right people to reach to get it in front of all these people. And it sounds like a lot of money, but it probably doesn't take a lot of people to fund your product. If they're showing it to a gazillion people, you probably just need 100 people, so to speak, or even less, to throw some money at it, and you'll raise your money. Yep. So it's just one of those things that inventors ask about a lot. I see a lot about that online and wanted to sort of address that, because people go, I just started a Kickstarter and, so I'm so excited. And then 9 out of 10 times you never hear from them again. And it's because they're just hoping that it gets seen on there. And obviously, as we know too, real quick, on Kickstarter and those sites, the products that are doing the best get front page, right? So when you open up Kickstarter, it's like hottest campaigns because it's something you want to see as somebody that wants to be on there. It's exciting to see, oh, this one raised, look, it raised $1.2 million. The original goal was 100,000. It gets people excited. So those are the ones that get the press early on in the site. Your thing gets buried because it's not performing. It's like, it's kind of like when you go, I notice it's like when you go to the mall or somewhere or a restaurant and that you see the valet parkers, they always park the really nice cars right on the street or in the lot. The valet, it just looks good. It makes you like, I want to be up in there. I want to park. Right. I valet my car. Everything's about being seen in this product business. And so people can't buy what they can't see. So you have to do everything you can to make sure that the product gets seen, it gets marketed well, it's worth investing. You've spent all this time and money getting your product made. Don't skimp out on the marketing, because at the end of the day, the thing that gets marketed the best often is the one that succeeds the most.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it, man. Jim, everything you talked about, right down to the Kickstarter stuff, all right on the money, dude. And you know what it still tells us? Retail is still king, and it will always be king, man.
Yeah. All right, I'm done, man. I'm tired. That was a lot.
No, those are questions that I get all the time too. And Kickstarter, endless. All of that stuff, insurance, prototypes. I mean, nobody can say we're not covering these things that people need to know.
These are right. They're important things. They keep coming up. So I thought today was a good day to share that. But well, eventually we could do this as a filler show. Every time we don't have guests, we can talk about the questions because they are important.
Yeah.
And people do need to know them. And if they listen to this podcast and other podcasts that we have, these are things they could just jot down. They could write it down and remember it. And at least they are aware of it. We know the best inventor is an educated one. So jumping into this business, it's risky. So the more you know, the better off you're going to be.
Yeah, no doubt about it, man. All right. Well, cool. All you listeners out there, I appreciate you tuning in with us today. If you have any other questions or ones we haven't covered, even questions about the questions we did cover, send them on in, right, Jim? Questions to the questions we did cover. There are questions to those questions.
And there'll be more questions after those questions, right?
Yeah. Send them on in to Jim, jimdebetta.com, or find them on social media. This has been Get Retail Ready. You can find us on Google Play, iTunes. Go ahead and
YouTube. Go to YouTube.
Oh yeah, YouTube. I always forget about our video.
I got to get you into that rotation.
The Launch Network. Go ahead on YouTube and you can watch what we're talking about. You could see my new hairdo every week. The Launch Network on YouTube. We'd love to tune in, and you could leave some any kind of comments or message on how we're doing with that too. So for Mr. Jim DeBetta, for me, Carmen Danisco, we thank you for listening, and we will catch you next time on Get Retail Ready. You all take care.